So you might have seen this gorgeous flower popping up all over the place, in wellness teas, vapes, even oils. It's the blue lotus. And listen, while it feels like a brand new trend, its story actually goes back thousands of years. So today, we're going to dive in. We're going to figure out what it is, why it's suddenly so popular, and most importantly, what the science really has to say about it.
I mean, think about it. How does an ancient, sacred flower, something revered by the Egyptians, suddenly end up in a modern vape shop or all over online stores? That's the real question here, isn't it? And we're going to get into it. It's this wild mix of ancient history, a little bit of chemistry, and yeah, a whole lot of modern marketing. All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the mystical blue lotus itself. Then we'll tackle the big question: is it a miracle cure or just hype? From there, we'll get into the dangers and downsides, super important stuff. We'll also cover its legal status and how people are using it. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with what you really need to know. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the mystical blue lotus. We're talking about an ancient plant's very modern comeback. So what exactly is this thing? Well, its fancy name is Nymphaea, but we know it as the blue lotus. It's a water lily, but here's the kicker: it's psychoactive. It's originally from Egypt and parts of Asia, and it's got some pretty epic nicknames too, like the blue Egyptian lotus or the sacred blue lily. You can already tell from the names that it has a pretty significant past, right? And its journey through time is, well, it's pretty wild. If you go back to ancient Egypt, this flower was a huge deal. I mean, it was used in traditional medicine, in spiritual rituals. You'll see it painted on tombs and ancient papyrus scrolls. Now, let's fast forward to today. It's popped up again, but in a totally different world, as a trendy ingredient in the modern wellness scene.
All right, so that's the history, but what about right now? Is this flower the miracle cure people claim it is, or is it all just hype? Let's dig into what people are actually saying about it.
Okay, so if you spend any time online looking this stuff up, you'll see these big claims pop up again and again. People say it helps them sleep, it reduces anxiety. Some even say it's a natural aphrodisiac, or that it helps with erectile dysfunction. But, and this is a huge but, it's so important to remember that right now, these are all anecdotal. They're just personal stories.
So what's actually in the flower that would make people feel this way? Well, it boils down to two key psychoactive compounds. First up, you've got something called apomorphine. This is a dopamine agonist, which is just a sciencey way of saying it can trigger feelings of happiness and euphoria in your brain. Then there's nuciferine. This one is thought to have an anti-psychotic effect, which could be where that feeling of calmness comes from.
So, these two compounds sound pretty promising, don't they? It seems to line up with the claims. But, and this is where we have to hit the brakes, what does the actual science say? Not about the compounds in isolation, but about the blue lotus flower itself.
And this, right here, is the absolute key. There is no direct research on the flower itself that backs up any of these claims about treating anxiety or helping with sleep. None. Researchers suspect it might be because of those two compounds, sure, but a suspicion is a long, long way from actual scientific proof that comes from studying the plant.
Okay, what about the antioxidant claim? You hear that one a lot too. And look, it's true, blue lotus does have antioxidants like flavonoids and quercetin. But here's the thing. It's not special in that regard, not at all. You can get those same antioxidants from stuff you eat every day. Think fruits, veggies, whole grains, and probably in much larger amounts.
So let me be crystal clear on this. Even though it has antioxidants, there is zero research, I mean absolutely none, that connects consuming blue lotus with a reduced risk of things like heart disease, diabetes, or cancer. The science just hasn't connected those dots.
Okay, and this is where we need to shift gears and get serious. This brings us to the dangers and downsides. It's time we peel back those beautiful petals and look at the real risks involved. Now, this might be the single most important thing to know. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has officially labeled the flower as unsuitable for consumption. Now, it's not a controlled substance, but having the FDA put out a warning like that, well, that's a massive red flag about its safety. And because there's just no safety data out there, experts are really clear on this. Certain groups should avoid it completely. We're talking about children, anyone who is pregnant or breastfeeding, and, this is a big one, anyone with mood disorders or schizophrenia. Oh, and you should absolutely not mix it with things like alcohol or cannabis or anything else that affects your central nervous system.
And listen, these warnings aren't just theoretical what-ifs. A case report from just 2023 gives us a very stark, real-world example of what can happen. It documented some really severe symptoms in people who had consumed Blue Lotus.
What that case report described was
pretty disturbing. It started with users feeling intense paranoia and agitation. From there, it got worse, escalating into hallucinations and just really strange behavior. It's a powerful and, frankly, scary example of just how unpredictable this flower's psychoactive effects can be.
So, moving beyond the direct health risks, there are some practical things we need to talk about. Specifically, its legal status and how people are actually using it. And trust me, this is where it gets a little complicated.
The legal situation is a total patchwork quilt. In most of the US, it's not technically a controlled substance, so you can buy it. But then you have a state like Louisiana where it's flat out illegal to even possess it. And when you look internationally, countries like Poland, Russia, and Latvia have banned it completely. So it really depends on where you are.
So, how are people actually using this stuff? Well, the most common ways are brewing it into a tea, smoking the dried flowers, or putting the ground-up flowers into a vape. You'll also see it infused into wine or other alcoholic drinks, and it's even used in things like massage oils and essential oils.
But let's pause on that alcohol point for a second, because this is another critical warning. Mixing Blue Lotus with wine or any other kind of alcohol is considered especially risky. Why? Because we have no idea how its psychoactive compounds interact with alcohol. Experts say you should absolutely avoid it.
All right, that brings us to our final section, the bottom line, what you really should know. Let's pull all of this together and figure out the final takeaway.
So it really all boils down to what we can call the Blue Lotus dilemma. On one hand, you have the allure, right? The ancient history, that mystical reputation, and all these appealing modern claims of euphoria and calm. But then, on the other hand, you have the cold, hard reality. It's a psychoactive substance. It is not approved by the FDA. There is no safety data, and there are documented cases of really severe side effects like paranoia and hallucinations.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. There's this huge gap between the ancient stories and the mystical reputation of this flower and what modern science can actually prove about its safety and its effects. And that just leaves one big question hanging in the air. Is the mystery really worth the risk?